Our guests this week, two former Leafs who left it all on the ice. When I think of Pat Boutette and Dave Hutchinson, I think of heart, soul, and grit. Joe Tilley Sports, coming up. Welcome to the program. We've got a great one for you today, folks. Two amazing guests. Our first guest was born in Windsor, Ontario. He was a center who started at the University of Minnesota Duluth, an AHCA All-Star and All-American, a ninth-round pick of the Leafs in 1972, played 11 years in the NHL with the Maple Leafs, Hartford, and Pittsburgh, 752 NHL games, 171 goals, 282 assists, 453 points, 1,354 penalty minutes. The man they call Booter, Pat Boutette. And also joining us on the program today, a native of London, Ontario, a bruising defenseman, played 13 years of pro hockey. He was drafted by the LA Kings in 1972. He started his career in the WHA with Philadelphia and Vancouver. He played for the Kings, the Maple Leafs, the Blackhawks, and the Devils. 131 points in 681 NHL games with 1,735 penalty minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, Dave Hutchinson. Welcome to the program, guys. It's great to have you here.
Nice to be here, Joe. Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Listen, I was just going through the stats earlier today, and I realized that you were both born in the same year, and you actually both played for the London Knights for a brief period of time. Back in the 69-70 season. You recall that time?
Absolutely. They were great times for me. I was called. I was playing Junior B when we started that season. Pat, you probably remember I was called up around January or February and then stayed with the team the rest of the season. We went on, our first round of the playoffs, we ended up beating Roger Nielsen's Peterborough Petes, and then we lost out in the Marlies in 8 games.
Yeah,
right.
Was,
and then
I looked back. I still remember when I was on the bus with you in January. We were going, I don't know where, Peterborough or somewhere, and you were on. I think that you were playing your first game or something. That I remember, and then actually, like you said, we went on to have a pretty good year that year with who was our coach? Was Bep Woodland, right?
Bep Woodland. That's correct.
Bep Woodland was our
Bep,
coach.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we actually had a pretty good team that year, but the Marlies were just a little bit more depth than us, and but it was still a good year.
Yeah, it was a good series we had.
No,
with them.
Pat,
back then you had to win the game
with the Marlies. Yeah.
Yeah, you had to win the game outright. We had a couple.
Right.
Yeah, we had to have a couple ties. That's why it went to 8-game series. But we had Daryl Sittler and Dan Maloney. Dan Bouchard was our. Yeah, Bouchard was our goaltender. He was an NHL goalie. So, Pat, it was strong. We got fairly tough. And then the Marlies, after they beat us, they went on to lose to the Montreal Junior Canadiens. And they had Gilbert Perreault. They had quite a team. And then the Canadiens won the Memorial Cup that year.
Some good players in that in those years, right? In those draft years, too. Now, you went on to play. Why did you choose the college route, Pat? Why did you, after that 1 year in London, why did you choose to go the college route?
It was like a fun that there was a lot of transition there with Bep Woodland coming in, and I forget what our general manager's name. What was it? Hutch? Who's that?
Doug Pratt. Doug Pratt.
Doug Pratt. Yeah. Anyways, because actually I had a really good kind of year for my first year. I played with. Dave Gilmore, Doug Gilmore's brother, in that series against Peterborough. And we played against Rick McLeish and all those guys, and we shut them down. But it was kind of funny. Like, I think before the season, like mid-season, they came to me one day, our manager, and he said to me, if I trade you, what will you do, right? Like, what will you think you'll do? Will you stay? Whatever. And I said, well, I think if you trade me, I'll probably go back to school or go back to Windsor and finish my grade 12 and then see what my options are then, right? But I actually had 2 or 3 offers from universities to, with 4-year full, residuals. Everything was paid for. So at that age, at 17 years of age, I thought that was the best way to go. And it took me a little bit longer to get to the NHL, but it probably helped me in the long run for, get more experience.
You're also an accomplished golfer, Pat. Was that, did you end up playing for the school team in golf as well?
No, back then it was like you were pretty, once you were, kind of selected for one sport, you probably stayed with it. But when you're hockey players or whatever, what else do you have to do in the summertime but play golf, right? So which is hopefully you can take the advantage of that and you can get your game, where it should be, right?
Right. Well, your final year at Minnesota, 18 goals, 45 assists. That's 63 points in just 36 games. Pretty impressive numbers with the Bulldogs. Did you have a good team?
Yeah, I made the All-American team that year, so that was kind of a feat in itself. So everything, it just once that happened, and then with the WHA and everything else out there, it opened up a lot of opportunities for to turning professional for sure.
Well, let's talk about both of you guys graduating to the pros and making it to the Leafs. And Dave, you had a pretty good defense partner named Borje Salming, I understand. What was that like, coming to the Leafs and getting a chance to play with the King?
Well, it was awesome. I mean, he was one of the best players that I ever saw play. And we got to appreciate it in practice. Pat, you and I could tell the same story. He would take the puck and he would take it away, and nobody could get it off him. Yeah, he just skates around the whole ice, and where all the other 20 players are trying to get it, and he wouldn't let anybody have it. And that's how good he was. But he played through some times where they considered him a chicken Swede, and there was a lot of guys taking runs at him. Patty can probably tell the story better, but I guess one of his first games was in Philadelphia. The Broad Street Bullies came after him, and there was a fight, and he grabbed Dave Schultz and just picked him up and threw him and slammed him down. Like he was a guy of immense strength for his size. He was in unbelievable condition. Like I remember one night coming back from a road trip, and we went back to his house. Patty, I don't know if you were with us or not, and we went back to Borje's house, and we were having a couple of beers. It was probably 2 a.m. in the morning, and there was 4 of us in Borje, and he arm wrestled all 4 of us, knocked us all down in a second, and then repeated it again and knocked us all. So 8 arm wrestles like that, and that's how fast he was knocking us down. He was unbelievable strength for his size.
Yeah.
Also, Hutch, you guys. Sorry, go ahead, Pat. Yeah.
He wasn't really the most like he was a bad liver, right? I mean, he was always the guy that basically didn't really look after himself. But once you get up to practice the next day, I mean, he just had so much stamina. He could just put all that behind him and just play hockey whenever he wanted to. He just had so much amazing skills and strength and just ability to stamina.
One quick story I'll tell you is
phenomenal, eh? Yeah.
We were playing in St. Louis one night, and do you remember Dave Babbage? He was a right winger. He pounded a shot at Borje, took it right off his kneecap, and he played the rest of the game. And he was coming to the bench. You could tell he was hurt. He had the ice pack on, but next day he comes home, the X-ray it, and he take out his whole kneecap. It was totally crushed. So he played on that whole game on a crushed knee.
Wow.
Oh yeah,
wow.
He was
a tough guy, tough as nails. And you guys talk about the
yeah.
Flyers. When the Flyers would come to, there were times when you hear about guys getting the Philly flu. Obviously, Borje would never succumb to that. None of you guys would. You guys had a pretty tough team. I think there was one team the Flyers probably didn't like to mess with was you guys.
Well, that's right, because we'd loaded up a few guys. Tiger and Malone was tough, and Patty was tough, and then I came in. I was I helped a little bit back on the defensive side. So Roger Nielsen was our coach. He wanted us to be a tough team, And during that era, when you had the Broad Street Bullies and the the Philadelphia Flyers, or I should say the Big Bad Bruins, you needed some toughness. And we were a team that was up and coming. Hey, Patty, we were good, and we just couldn't get by Montreal in 70, I guess was 80 or whatever it was, 70, 80, 81, whatever it was. And Punch decided it was time to. Yeah, Punch figured it was time to clean house, and out in came Punch Imlach, which was the biggest issue at that time. And I think anybody who was affiliated with Al Eagleson, and Al would, that's a whole other story, Al Eagleson. But anybody who had him was gone, and I think I counted 8 guys, including Pat, myself, Walt McKechnie, Palmy was gone, Turnbull, all these guys were young and good and in their prime. Joel Quenneville was their first pick that year. He was only 19 years old. They traded him off, so the team kind of went into a bit of doldrums then, and it took him a while. It took him a while to get out of it. Thank God there was a guy by the name of Wendell Clark came around.
Right. Yeah. Were you part of that? You were part of that Punch purge, Pat?
Well, yeah. What happened was I came back from usually. I think we used to always play on Christmas Day, and I came back, and I think we were playing Washington, and I go into the dressing room, and I usually always get there earlier, like around, I don't know, 4:30, 5 o'clock, and then so Guy Kinnear comes over to me, and he's first of all I walk in, my jersey's not hanging up, so I go over to Guy Kinnear and I said, "What's going on?" He says, "Oh, go on home." They're going to call you. They're going to call you later. They're going to call you tomorrow morning and tell you what's going on. So I mean, what do you mean? You said why couldn't somebody with some authority come in?
From the equipment guy, yeah.
So sure enough, I go home and I get a call the next morning at 9 o'clock from Floyd Smith, and then Punch Imlach's on the line. And he said, "Well, we just traded you to Hartford, and you better get down here and get your equipment because you got to play tonight in St. Louis, right?" So I said, "Oh, well, thank you very much, guys, and why don't you guys, both of you guys, go to hell, right? See you later." I just hung up and went and got my stuff, and away I went. That was it. So that's you play 5 years for a team, and the way it was pretty, very inappropriate. That's for sure. Yeah.
The same thing.
It seems really unfortunate because, yeah. Go ahead, Dave.
The same happened to me. The same thing happened to me. I got traded later I got traded about January the 20th or something like that. And Punch didn't tell me either. When I got to the rink in the morning, I got to Guy Kinnear, and he said, he says, you're just, oh yeah, you're going out in the ice, you're practicing, but you're not going to be going. I go, what are you talking about? He says, you're going to hear something later. So we go for lunch, and we go down to Scotland. Someplace down on the Esplanade, we're having lunch, and the phone rings. And it's Punch Imlach on the other end of the phone, and there's like 10 of us there along the bar having lunch at the restaurant, correct. And he says, "Mr. Hutchinson, congratulations, you've been traded to Chicago." And I said, "Okay." And now he could have told me the same thing in the morning when we were there. He could have told me at practice.
Right.
He waited until later, and I was the same thing. I had to get out of town. I had to be in Chicago the next morning. And later, after this happened, there was Walt McKechnie was with us, and Walter saw a newspaper reporter from the Toronto Star, Jim Kernahan was his name, walking down the street with a newspaper under his arm. He calls him, he says, "Colonel, get in here. Hutch has been traded." And we had a whole bunch of these guys all along the bar. Ian Turnbull grabs the newspaper from Kernahan. There's a picture of Punch Imlach in the big full-size picture of Punch Imlach. He puts it on the dartboard, and the guys throw darts at the pitch, and there's one right on the end of his nose. They take a picture of, and that went bigger than anything. Was the dartboard incident with Punch Imlach? But that's how I found out that I was traded on the telephone, even though I was at the rink and practiced earlier that day.
But you got the heads up from Guy Kinnear, which is unbelievable. Like, I mean, what kind of operation is that? I mean, Guy Kinnear wasn't getting the kind of money that he'd be telling people that they've been traded. That's crazy.
Yeah.
No,
Now,
it wasn't.
I mean, you guys must have been so disappointed. I mean, it seemed like the team was going in the right direction. It seemed like things were happening, and then all of a sudden, poof, Punch comes in there and wipes everything out.
I want to tell you
Well,
this
though
story.
when I look back at it, go ahead, Hutch, go.
Go ahead, Patty, if you're ready. Go ahead.
Okay, like the more I think about it, I look back at it, and I had a little bit of time to go home and analyze it. I said, well, I'm going to Hartford. Gordie Howe's there, Dave Keon, like Bobby Hull, and I'm going like, holy shit, this might be good. And
That's not so bad.
actually, once I went to Hartford, and in the next I guess it was about 120 games, I had 120 points. So they actually did me a favor, to tell you the truth. But it's playing with guys like Gordie Howe and Bobby Hull and Davey Keelan. I mean, what an experience that was.
Before you left, though, there was I want to stay with you, Pat, for a second here. Actually, no, let's get back to Dave because you had something to say on that, Dave. One more
Well,
point on that.
I was going to talk about how I got how it happened that I did get traded, like a couple of days prior to when it happened. So we're getting ready. We're going to go play. Patty, you must remember this. We're going to play in Montreal, and we're flying out of the Skyport, which was behind the Toronto airport, by a charter flight to Montreal, play the game, and we're just going to come right back after the game. So we're all parking in the parking lot around the Skyport air runway, and
The
Patty's
headlight
coming on the
scandal.
plane.
The headlight
Exactly.
scandal.
Patty comes on. Patty comes on the plane. He says, "Check it out, guys. Take a look around." We look through our porthole windows, and sure enough, Punch has left his lights on. Okay, Patty doesn't tell him. He could have. He was right beside him, but he didn't tell him. So now on the way home, of course, we go to Montreal. We lose the game like 3-2. We come back, and everybody's boo-hooing. We get off the plane. There's Punch. He's standing in front of his car. His car's dead. And, back then, I'm talking, what was this, 78, 70? There was no cell phones. There was nothing to get. We
Yeah.
stranded him there. Now, I'm riding with Ian Turnbull, okay? And I got all the credit for this, but it was Ian Turnbull's plan. He went to the trunk of his car, pulled out battery cables, shoved them in the back door of the passenger. We did a tour around the parking lot, and here's these cables. The jumper cables are sparking along the tarmac as we go around, and we come right in front of Punch, and he sees me in the passenger side of Bert Turnbull's car, and I'm gone the next. I'm gone the next day. And we left him there. Yeah, and we left him there. Yeah.
Oh boy! Like just before we move on from the Leafs, because I want to do that a little bit too. But I want to talk a little bit about the line that you guys had called the Brat Line. Pat, tell us about the Brat Line. It was you and Jack Veliked and Tiger Woods, I believe. Tell us about that line.
Yeah, actually, well, I was just talking to Tiger on Saturday there, and no, it was like I was a left winger, and we had so many left. We had Harold Thompson, we had Tiger, I forget who else, and then just for a couple of games they put me on right wing, and things really kind of started to go in the right direction. So it was all good, and then actually we had a couple of one really good year, and then all of a sudden, what happened there? Tiger Harold Thompson was traded, right? And then Tiger ended up going up and playing with Lanny and Darryl. So that kind of, broke up that whole line for whatever reason. And then basically things kind of went chaotic, but a year later, and we were basically all traded, right?
Right. Yeah, and Dave, I'm like your job with the team quite often would be like as a momentum shifter, and you had a few scraps here, 1,735 penalty minutes. Yeah, tell us about some of your more memorable scraps back
Well,
then.
one I remember it was Al Secord was coming into it was his very first game in the NHL. He was the first pick by the Boston Bruins because of his toughness. Anyway, Al is going to come play his very first game. Don Cherry tells him before game time, "Take your helmet off, Al, and you're going to start on left wing, and you're going to play every left wing power play. So Al gets rid of the helmet that he's worn his whole life, never gone without one, of course. Very first shift, I got no idea who this guy is. He's playing left wing. I'm playing left defense. Puck goes towards our corner. I go back. All of a sudden, kaboom! He smashes me into the boards. Crunch. Next thing, he's dropped his gloves. We're scrapping. I come out of it. I got a big shiner out of it. I got a black eye. So we don't play them again for a while because we were in different sides. But the next time we do play is back in Toronto again, and he's coming. Same thing. He's coming down the left. He's playing left wing, so he's coming down the left boards right in front of our bench, and I kind of blank. I cold-cocked him. I came right across the ice, and I says, here's what's going to happen to you. And I nail him with a right hand and open him up underneath his chin. And I says, okay, now the fight starts like you did for me, Al. So anyway, fight goes on, whatever. So now and again, we didn't play them a whole lot because we were the different schedules. So now I get traded to Chicago. And a week later, Al Secort's traded to Chicago. So now we're teammates.
Oh,
and
wow.
we became the best of friends. Honest, we were the best of friends. We still are. He's actually an airline pilot for United out of Dallas now.
Wow. And you know what? He never wore a helmet again after that. I guess
he never did.
The incident with you, he took his helmet off, and from then on, he didn't wear the helmet again. It was interesting.
I guess I didn't scare him very much. He needed a helmet.
Yeah. Yeah, so there was some, and Pat, you're another guy who didn't mind dropping the gloves from time to time when called upon, and I think I can't imagine a guy who was like 5'8", 5'9", 170 pounds, tougher pound for pound than Pat Boutette in the NHL. There's still guys who talk about their encounters with you, Patty.
Well, I think back then you had to defend yourself, and you stand up to everybody, or else they'd eat you up and spit you out, right? But
Right.
I was actually talking to another friend just this week, and we're talking about I got into with the Islander. What's the big guy's name? The left winger.
Or Clark
Oh,
Gillies.
Gillies.
Clark Gillies. I had 3 fights with him in one game, and I knocked him down twice. And whenever
He's
I
a
see
tough
him now,
dude.
he was a tough guy. And we always laugh about it. He says, holy shit. He says, yeah, I'll never forget it. He said, so we always kind of laugh. But it's, hey, back in those days, I mean, you had to defend yourself, or else you had to stand up for what you believed. And a lot of guys would take advantage of a lot of, like at Philadelphia, where it was all intimidation. So if you didn't stand up to them,
Right.
no chance. But
Do you guys miss that part of the game today? Do you miss that part of the game today?
Sorry?
Oh, there we go.
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, because it was such a
You
part
missed that
of
part of the game today, Dave? Yeah.
Yeah, I do, because it was a big part of that's the way I got there. It was a big part of my life playing in the NHL, and if the game was played back then the way it is now, I wouldn't have had a chance to make it out there. I was there because I was willing to fight these guys, like the bad guys on the other teams that were out after our good guys.
What are your thoughts
like
on
Patty? But Patty was, I'll attest to this. Patty was a very tough guy, and I've seen Patty go many times from taking on Steve Durbano with the Toronto Marlies back in the 60s and 70s or whatever to going toe to toe with these guys like you're talking Clark Gillies, one of the baddest of all time in the NHL. So Patty's a tough guy.
Chris Nyland. Our friend Robin tells us the story about Chris Nyland.
Right. There's been
Who you
lots
asking?
Yeah, no, Patty. Yeah, the story about Chris Nyland. Tell us a little bit about that. That one.
That was the one.
He remembered you very well.
Yeah, in Montreal,
Yeah.
I was with Hartford, and we were kind of like hacking each other all game, and so we go to the face-off there. I think it was the start of the third period, and he was just yelling at me, "Oh, you're a shithead, you're a chicken, you don't want to fight me and everything." So I just waited, sat there, let the puck drop, and I just cold cocked him, knocked him almost. I think I probably knocked him out for a second, and Oh, he was running around the ice coming to get me. I'm going to get you. I'm going to get you. And I said, well, come on, let's go again. So we went again, but it was like, at least I know I got him one time. And he felt
Yeah.
it. I know that for sure.
Definitely, he was
So
one of the toughest guys. I got to ask you, yeah, how are the Knuckles? How are the Knuckles now?
the hands,
Yeah, how are the hands,
yeah,
Just
Dave?
like
you
every,
know,
just like
the
everything else
hands,
on the
yeah,
body.
everything.
Everything
I'm
else
just
will
more worried
beat
about
up
my
too. So.
noodle. Forget about the hands, right?
Right.
Because like I didn't I never wore a helmet for over almost 800 games, right? So it's it's little different now. I mean, but that's the way it was, and I'm still moving. That's the main thing.
Hey Joe, if you
Yep.
had
Are
hair like
you?
Pat that
Oh,
back
Had a
then,
sorry.
would
nice
you wear a helmet?
Nystrom and I
Yeah.
we
No,
had
that's right.
Nystrom.
That's true.
We must have had about we probably had about 10 fights to Nystrom, whatever we all those
You
guys.
and Bobby Nystrom, yeah.
Oh yeah. Just, let's go again. Here we go. So yeah, you couldn't back down, right? Good Nystrom.
Well, they
He
were
was a nut
fun
man
times.
too.
It was quite an era, wasn't it? Yeah, it's quite an era.
Yeah.
It,
The
Now,
it
only
was
problem you
something that
didn't
you
want to get
kind of,
sorry,
it
Dave,
was
go ahead.
something that
you
you
didn't want to get a big
yeah.
line.
Yeah,
There he
big
goes.
liner,
There.
right?
No,
Yeah,
no, fighting back then, it was something that you had to like to do. You had to enjoy some part of it because
Yeah.
it's a little strange way to make a living out there. On
right,
the ice, bare knuckles, fighting
right.
big tough guys. So yeah, we enjoyed doing it. At least I did, and I worked at it. I practiced, and I was ready, and that's how it was. So if you were scared going out there, forget it. And Patty can tell you the same thing. I can tell you who was scared as soon as we started playing against him. You knew right away who was scared.
Yeah. Who's that
I
there?
know.
Larry
I've heard a lot of
Playfair.
stories about that. Yeah, yeah,
That's Larry Playfair there.
right.
Okay. Yeah. From my.
But you did have nice hair, Pat,
Oh
for
well.
sure. Still got nice hair, my friend. Okay. So
Still there.
let's. I want to ask you a little bit about getting. Like, I want to ask you a little bit about when you got called up by the Leafs, Pat, in 75, 76, and what an opportunity that was for you after being in Oklahoma City for a couple of years. And I know your mom was pretty happy about it. We dug up our video guy Paul Pascu was able to dig up some video of your mom watching you playing hockey back. I think it was a feature on Hockey Night in Canada, and she was so pleased. I mean, it was such an exciting time for you. I mean, tell us about that time and what it was like to be able to play on Hockey Night in Canada in front of your family and what was it like?
Okay. So yeah, it was. I guess my mom was she was lots of piss and vinegar there. She was on the move all the time, and she'd be jumping up and down at all the games, watching every game that I played. But I think that one night, there was Hockey Night in Canada, actually did a thing right in our house, and I think they showed it between periods or whatever. But
Hmm.
she was definitely my biggest fan, and she was not only a good mother, but boy, she really supported you and was backing me all the way. That's for sure.
What was that like? Though? I mean, getting called up to the Maple Leafs in 75, 76, and here's a guy. You're a guy who was a ninth round draft pick. I mean, how many good ninth round draft picks that make it to the show, right? And not like that. You played college, you played in the minors for a couple of years, then you get called up by the Leafs and became a very usable player for that Maple Leafs team. What was that like getting called up?
Well, what happened was like, I played my 2 years in Oklahoma City and I had two, pretty good years. And I guess the Leafs were just going into a little bit of a transition there that next year. And I came to camp, had a really good camp, and everything was going really well. But we had these rules where you could dress in the dressing room for practice, but you couldn't dress in the Leaf room for a regular game, which was kind of bizarre. So I had to dress with it across the hallway in the coach's room, and then I'd come over to the to,
Wow.
to the dressing room, and then I'd play the game. So one day, I'm like one game I'm doing that. I think the second game I played, and who's standing there but Harold, right? Harold Ballard.
Right.
So Harold says, Pat, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm just getting dressed and going over to the dressing room to get ready for the game. He says, are you kidding me? He says, where are you living? And I said, well, I'm still at the Westbury. That's why they put us up there for, forever. So listen, he says, okay, right after the game, you're gonna come over to me. I'll meet you at my back box and I want to talk to you. So I go back there and he says, Pat, first of all, get your equipment tomorrow, get it into the dressing room and get in there and you're with the team, right? And he says, and second of all, get out of the Westbury, out of the Westbury, and go get yourself a proper place to live, and you're with the Toronto Maple Leafs as of tomorrow. So I said, thank you, Mr. Ballard, and that was it. So that was the start of a great career with Toronto, and I went on to play with Hartford and Pittsburgh and had some good years there. But Toronto's it's a boy, just a dream to be able to play for the Leafs, and then it was great that it happened the way it did.
Well, that's we hear that a lot about Harold. Yeah. Yeah, we hear that a lot about Harold. That we know what he did to the team, and we know that his meddling and everything else caused a lot of problems with the team. But we had Jim McKinney on last week, and how he said the same kind of thing. Is that to the players, Ballard was great. I mean, he was always good to you guys. Did you have the same experience, Dave?
Absolutely. As an owner, he was one of the finest that I ever played with. He was there. He showed, actually, him and King Clancy came to every game in practice. Isn't that right, Patty? He showed up everywhere. And we'd have a pregame skate in St. Louis. They came everywhere with us. And no, Harold he really loved his, as he called them, his boys. And he was on board all the time with us. And he was a very good owner, really hands-on, not like the other owners that you never saw. And always took care of us. So, nothing bad to say about Harold from me.
But he let Punch have control, and then things kind of hit the fan, as they say, after that. Okay, so Patty, back to you now. Here, I want to talk about the following year you get traded to Hartford, then you end up in Pittsburgh, and like things took off for you often. I mean, you showed some touch in prior to that, but things really took off for you in Pittsburgh. 80 points in 80 games, include 52 assists. Like you were a hell of a playmaker, and then 74 points the following season. What was it that turned you around, allowed you to become the kind of offensive player that to reach your potential on the offensive standpoint?
Well, especially when I was in Hartford, I ended up. Well, it's just like one thing when you go from a defensive player to an offensive player, it's a totally different game, right? And just by being in Hartford with Blaine Stoughton and Mike Rogers, we had, like I said, when I got traded to Hartford, that I think it was just after Christmas on Christmas Day. But then what happened was everything just kind of turned around, and the only problem is that all of a sudden I just got a year and a half of great hockey in Hartford, and I ended up going to Pittsburgh in compensation for. Who was it there now? Greg Millen. So it was, then I went to Pittsburgh and I had some really great years and ended up playing with Mario there, like for my last year. But sometimes if you're a good defensive player, it's a lot easier, to take up the offensive or depending on what your status is, because once you're classified as a certain type of player, they expect you to be that way, for your whole career. But it was lucky that I played the defensive end, but then I ended up playing a lot of the offensive part of the game too.
Dave, before you went back to before you dealt to Chicago, you guys had that good run in 78, 79, and you taken Montreal to a couple overtime games. That year you had 19 points and 235 penalty minutes. That was a pretty good year for you in pretty much every aspect. Is that your most memorable year?
Well, because I was playing with Borje. That's why
Right.
I had the points, and my plus minus was like plus 35 that year as well. But yeah, when you're playing with him, pretty rosy. And not only that, I grew up a Leaf fan, being from London here, so it was a team that I always wanted to play for, and it was a dream come true for me. And playing against the Habs was geez, we hated that team, and they were better. They had a lot of help. If you remember the league office, the referee's office, if you had any trouble, the schedule maker's office, everything about the NHL was in Montreal. And if you recall, that was 1993 when they moved it to New York. And since 1993, the Habs haven't won the cup. So
maybe
I wonder if there was any.
Knows,
I wonder if there was. I wonder if there was anything going on in,
well,
in Montreal back then.
well, yeah. Well, Sam Pollock stole a lot of draft picks, man. He did it. He did
He
some
did.
shifty
He
maneuvering, and
did.
he got some great players in there for sure, no doubt
And then,
about that. But okay,
and
let's talk
those two
about.
draft,
Yes, go ahead.
and those
Go
two
ahead.
draft picks that came out of Quebec that went to Montreal every year up until 1968 had a lot to
Right.
do with the big French connection or whatever. They had those first two players. It'd be like if Ontario had the first two draftable players out of our province, Bobby Orr, Bobby Hull. I think the Leafs would be pretty good.
Yeah, they would have had a few more cups than they did have.
I think so.
Um,
I think so.
so let's talk about your move to Chicago, and then another big you had in 81, 82, in 66 games with the Blackhawks, 5 goals, 18 assists, another 246 penalty minutes. What was going on with the Blackhawks back then? What was it like
Well,
playing
we
for
were a
them?
young team coming up. We had a new 18-year-old first round pick was Dennis Savard. Doug Wilson was who I was playing defense with. He won the Norris Trophy. I think he had like 40 goals that year. But Terry Ruskowski came in from the WHA. He was a tough-nosed centerman. Bob Pulford came back and took over coaching responsibilities there. We just gelled at the right time. Our goaltending got hot with a guy by the name of Murray Bannerman. And then in the playoffs, we won our first 2 rounds, got out of our division. We were down to the final 4 against Vancouver. And Murray Bannerman tore his hamstring or something in the back of his leg. He was done. There goes our hot goalie. And Vancouver went on to beat us, and then they lost to the Islanders. And I think that was the Islanders' 3rd or 4th cup they won.
So you ended up going from Toronto to Hartford to Pittsburgh, all the way through. I'm looking at your career stats, Pat, and like I think you played 7 straight seasons without missing a game. And the style of play that you had, I mean, you look at the players today, and how much game time is missed by players today, and you look at the rugged style of hockey that was. I mean, that is phenomenal. I mean, how were you able to pull that off?
I think maybe it's sometimes you're lucky you don't get any. Sometimes you get some injuries you can play through, but I never really had any serious except I think probably the one I was in. We were playing in Atlanta when I got 4 teeth knocked out just in with 2 minutes to go in the game, and then I had to go to a dentist right the next morning and get all these teeth kind of straightened out and root canals and everything, and then flew to Quebec and played that same night with a mask. But sometimes sometimes pain doesn't really affect you, but it's some things you have to always play through, right?
Well, playing through pain is something you did. And it's hard to believe that the next day you're playing a game after losing 4 teeth and having root canals and everything else. But it's a testament to your toughness and heart. I think at that point I'm going to make the transition to today's game and looking at the game today. What are your thoughts on it, Pat? How do you like the way the game's played today, or do you miss the old school style?
Yeah, I think that I've always enjoyed the game that we played, but no
Right.
matter what you look at, because it always ends up in the playoffs that the game changes, right? So you have to have some kind of a team that can play physical, because I think all the teams that do that have to have some element of physical play that they can control the game or else you're not going to go anywhere, any playoffs or any league finals for sure.
Okay, having said that, you look at what the changes the Leafs made in the offseason, bringing in specifically Zach Bogosian, Wayne Simmons on the toughness aspect, and you got TJ Brody and Joe Thornton. Do you like the changes that the Leafs made, and do you think they have the team now that can get it done? Dave, we'll start with you.
Well, I don't know if they have the team that can get it done. It seems to me that they're really just lacking. Something is lacking there. They're going to miss. I think Joe Thornton is a big part of that team right now. What he brings. When I watched that game there the other night, they outshoot Calgary 10-12-1 in the first period, and then the next period they outshoot them 18-. Why aren't they keeping this momentum going? Which I think they have to be doing. They're going to have to get big years out of Marner and some solid goaltending. It looks like we've toughened up our defense a bit, but look at the Habs, what they've done on defense. They got 4 big bruising defensemen and an all-star goalie back there. They've improved their team. I just hope that the Leafs can keep grinding it out and just kind of get some momentum going. And maybe somebody like these new guys like Thornton or Zach Bogosian, they can carry the momentum and keep this thing, above water.
Right. What do you think? What do you think about this year's Maple Leafs team?
Well, I think, in any team that's going to go anywhere, you need, very consistent goaltending. And, I think from the start of the year, I think they've done that. But as Hutch is saying, you have to have some kind of an element of physical play that you can, use to enhance any going anywhere in the playoffs or making any run for anything. So, but I think they've tried to do that, and hopefully, they can live up to those expectations, and the guys that they brought in can meet the requirements that they need to go anywhere, any kind of distance in the playoffs for sure.
Now, I know that if you look at them from a talent standpoint, would you say that this is perhaps the most talented Leafs team you've seen? Hutch?
It looks like it. Yeah, it looks like it is right now. But, talent can only take you so far. And like what Pat said, in the playoffs, it's a whole different game. You got to, your balls get tested out there, and they got to be iron or you're not going to win. And I wonder if they can keep that up all the way through. Scoring gets a lot tougher in the playoffs. If they can stay healthy up front, these guys like, Nylander and Matthews, Marner, if they stay healthy, then I think the Leafs have a good chance. It's been a long run. It's been a long drought. So we've got a lot of expectations for that team.
Now, the format this year, the way they've got it worked out because of COVID, this North Division, the teams are playing each other 9 or 10 times. Do you like that, Pat? Do you like the rivalries that are setting up here? Do you think it's a good idea that they're playing the all Canadian division, and do you like the rivalry?
Yeah, I think it's an all Canadian division. I mean, there's a lot of up and coming good teams there too, right? So I think they probably had no choice but to align it that way, just because of all the border responsibilities and everything else. But I think it's all good for But as far as who's going to win, there's a lot of talent there, and I think it's going to come down to the nitty gritty, and it's all going to be about goaltending and just basically whoever's playing the best at the time is going to be moving forward, and that's it.
Okay, what do you think, David? Do you like the all Canadian format?
Yeah, it's because it's different. It's it's nice to see. The rivalries will certainly get embellished when they're playing 2-3 times in a row in the same city. But there's nothing we can do about it with the COVID. We have to. We can't cross the borders. One team's going to come out. and just like every other year, the top team of each division wins. So yeah, it's good.
Yeah, I think I like it too. I mean, I like the fact that that they had that first game against Calgary, and Matthew Tkachuk was mouthing off a little bit. And the second game, he gets a little bit more involved. You think things heating up. But I don't know. I get the feeling that this Leafs team seems to be a little bit is a team that I can rely on the guys to have a little more pushback than I'd say than maybe would have happened in the past. Would you agree with that?
I would, and they're getting like some more character in that room with the addition of Wayne Simmons and Joe Thornton and T.J. Brody and Zach Bogosian. So if they can lift those rest of those guys up that have all that talent, hey, we could be there, but it's like that close. Each team out there right now.
Right. Your thoughts on that, Pat?
Yeah, I think that they basically put added some muscle to that team for sure, and it's just a matter of blending in with the talent that they have there now, and using those what do they call aggressive body type hitting players in a position where they can be an asset not only to the team but to also the guys that are scoring all the goals. And they can support them and stand up for them too, because they're going to be a more physical force for sure.
Right, and one other good thing about this All Canadian form division is that we're guaranteed that one Canadian team is going to make it out of the that division. Therefore, one of the teams in the Final Four will be Canadian. So, it could be that gives them a really good shot. And really, in that case, you got a 50% chance there's a Canadian team in the Stanley Cup final, which is it's been a while since we've seen that. And what the that division, they're gonna beat each other up. They're gonna see each other 9 or 10 times. By the end of by the end of the season, they'll have played each other a number of times, or those rivalries will be sparked a little bit more. We've already seen a couple of scraps. I mean, with the Leafs, more than we say would in a normal year. Do you think there's even more of that coming,
Yeah.
Dave?
Yeah, I agree. No, I think there is. And it's because the more you play the team, the more you play that same guy, the more you hate him. And, just kind of bruise inside. And you saw it the other night there. I think Muzzin took a flick with the puck at the end of the game at Tkachuk. Those things are
Yeah.
lingering around. And, when you get a chance
Right.
at a guy, you can hit him. The refereeing is so tough nowadays. It's not like you can sneak a shot in like in the old days. You got two referees watching you. But those are the things that happen out there. And hey, if the Leafs can stay tough and these guys, like Marner and Matthews can get, a little bit bigger because they're, they got the Thornton or Simmons or with them, we need that.
Right. Pat, would you think it might be a good idea for the Leafs to take another crack at Kachuk next time they play?
Oh yeah, I think, like I said, the more you see each other out there on the ice, and especially if you're a physical player to start off with, they're going to always be looking at each other every game, right? So, and everybody, like Hutch is saying, I mean, you see these guys, the more often you see them, the more you hate them, and the more you're going to get these altercations, which are going to be just continue on probably for the rest of the year. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting because, like I say, every team knows they have to have that physical, style to be able to even think if they're going to go anywhere, anytime in that division. There's got to be some physical hockey being played on a consistent basis.
Yeah, I think I really like the way that this is unfolding. I think the fact that they put this all Canadian division together, and now they're as I said, they're going to have one Canadian team for sure in the Final Four, and you've got all these rivalries heating up and heating up and heating up, and as the season goes on, and those games are going to be pretty nasty, I think, by the end of the season, and they're going to be pretty meaningful by the end of the season. So I'm looking forward to that, and then the ensuing playoff round, which will also stay within the division. So that's going to be fun. Listen, guys, I want to thank you both for joining me today. It's been a pleasure. This has been a real fun show. I really enjoyed this, and two of my favorite guys to ever watch, and it's great to have you on the show. And I want to also mention to you, by the way, for being a guest on the Joe Tilley Sports Show, we have a foursome from Clubling for you. And remember, we're all in it together. And thanks again for being on the show. And we got some big Blue Jays news, some Raptors in NFL when we come back. Thanks again, guys. Good to see you guys.
Thank you,
Thank
Joe.
you.
All the best.
Addiction Rehab Toronto, Toronto's #1 alcohol and drug treatment center, saving lives, reuniting families. The only treatment center in the province to offer medical detox, treatment, sober living, and lifetime aftercare all in one place. Our unique and specialized programs are designed to equip our clients with the tools to successfully lead a life of dignity, respect, and purpose. Let us help save your life or your loved one's life. Call today for more information or to facilitate an intervention. 1-855-787-2424 or visit addictionrehabtoronto.ca. COSA, Central Ontario Standardbred Association, providing a united voice for harness horse people racing at Ontario tracks. Check out your benefits today at cosaonline.com. Also, check out COSA TV on Facebook and YouTube for all the latest harness news and live action updates. Live racing year-round, and go to freescratch.ca for your chance to win a new fabulous prize every day with COSA. Promotional consideration provided by ClubLink. ClubLink. One membership, more golf. Do you realize that 80% of golfers enjoy country music?
Really?
No, but 100% of golfers enjoy timely play. And that means being ready when it's your turn. Bring enough clubs to make a shot when you go to a ball that's away from your bag. Leave your clubs in an advanced position so when you move on, you're not going backwards. Remember, we're all in this together. Time now for our weekly sports analytics segment. Here's Kwame Bryan.
Hi, my name is Kwame. I'm a developer ambassador here at Elgrand, and glad to be back bringing the stats for this week's show. Here we have a comparison with Alexander Kerfoot and Pat Boutette, and you can see that they're basically evenly matched up, other than an anomaly in the penalty minutes. But there was one interesting fact that I found out, that Alexander Kerfoot was a graduate of Harvard. He is not the only one who has been on a Toronto sports team that's graduated from Harvard. And do you know the other one, Joe? See you in the next show. Bye for now.
Yes, Kwame. Actually, I do. Actually, there's two former Toronto, one former, one current Toronto athletes who graduated from Harvard. One is Jimmy Vesey, who plays with Kerfoot on the Leafs, and they also played together at Hartford. And of course, former Raptor Jeremy Lin. So Pat, Vesey, Kerfoot, some pretty smart dudes have played here in Toronto. Busy off season coming up for the Blue Jays. They've added some oomph to the infield. Marcus Semien has agreed to a one-year deal worth $18 million. In his last full season in Oakland, the 30-year-old shortstop hit .285 with 33 homers and 93 RBI. He'll likely play second base with the Bluebirds. And what about pitching, you say? Well, the Jays addressed that as well. They've acquired left-hander Steve Matz from the Mets for 3 prospects, all pitchers: Sean Reed-Foley, Yenis Diaz, and Josh Winkowski. Matz was 11-10 in his last full season and 32 starts. The Jays needed to free up some roster space, and they are really looking like contenders, folks. Last week, they signed George Springer, the top free agent prospect out there, for 6 years and $150 million. The 31-year-old outfielder hit .292 with 39 homers in his last full season with the Astros. He's a 3-time All-Star, a former World Series MVP, and he says there are some very good reasons why he wanted to be a Blue Jay.
I pride myself on being consistent. You know, I
I don't want to be that hot, cold guy. I want to make sure that I bring the same thing every day, all the time. I'm not an individual goal guy, I guess. I want to win. I want the team to win, and I'm willing to do what I have to do on my end, to help that happen. Well, I spoke to Charlie, Ross, and Mark. It was a great call. It really left me in a very good state of mind. The way that they talked about their players, who they have now, was something special. The way that they talked about the direction of where they want the organization to go, of what they envision for the city, what they envision for the country, was basically how it went, and it left a very, very good impression on me. From a early stage. I think one of the special things about this team is exactly that. It's an entire nation. I think one of the best examples of it is when you see the Blue Jays fans flock to a Seattle Mariners game, and there's 50,000 people there that are going crazy for the Blue Jays. I think that just shows you how impressive this fan base actually is.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Jays have two home bases. Yeah, it's been a so-so week for the Raptors. Kyle Lowry reached an impressive milestone. He became the third Raptor to reach the 10,000-point mark. He joins DeMar DeRozan and Chris Bosh. Kalo is also the team's all-time leader in assists and made three-pointers. Norman Powell has been scorching lately. Pascal Siakam is back. OG Anunoby has been sidelined recently with a calf injury, but it doesn't seem to be serious. The Raps, well, they have to play better than they have been. Nice run for the Buffalo Bills. They certainly matched or exceeded expectations, but in the end, they made it all the way to the AFC Championship, but fell to the better team. They lost to the defending champs. They've got a great coach. They've got an excellent defense. Josh Allen's a top 5 quarterback, but you know what? The Bills could probably use an upgrade at running back. A healthy Pat Mahomes and the Chiefs, well, they're going to beat anybody. Tom Brady's going to give it the old college try, however. We saw 2 Bradys last week, the unstoppable one in the first half and the very beatable one in the second half. He's now beaten MVPs Drew Brees and Aaron Rodgers on his way to the Super Bowl. I love that Buccaneers defense, solid, but they've got a tough job. It's going to be a tough job against Patty M and the Chiefs, who are 3-point favorites. And the Leafs said so long to a longtime legend this past week as George Armstrong passed away. The man they called the Chief played his entire 21-year career with the team, 12 of those as captain. He was a 7-time All-Star and led the Leafs to 4 Stanley Cup titles. Army was inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame in 1975. The Leafs retired his number 10, which now hangs from the rafters. Army also coached the Blue and White, and he coached the Marlies to a couple of Memorial Cup titles. And he played on an Allen Cup championship team as well. Army spent 75 years in the organization. He was a terrific guy, all-around great guy. He was 90 years old. A reminder to subscribe to Joe Tilley Sports on YouTube. You just don't want to miss all the latest news. We got it for you there. We're going to close now with a look at the folks who make all of this possible. These are all friends, business associates, trusted friends. They're all-around great guys, and I highly recommend them all. Thanks once again to Pat Boutette and Dave Hutchinson. It was a lot of fun to have you on the show today. Thank you for watching.
Get Aldo at RE/MAX Crossroads. Do you want to buy or sell a home? Could 31 years of real estate experience help you? Why not speak to an amazing team that loves to overpromise and overdeliver? Call 416-GET-ALDO or visit www.getaldo.com to find out what next level real estate looks like. RS Demolition and Excavation has extensive experience with complete teardowns and interior strip-outs. Looking to build a custom home? RS Excavating Services has the experience you need to build and establish neighborhoods. For the highest level of quality and cost-efficient results, we provide innovative demolition solutions completed on time and on budget while ensuring our number one priority, safety. Call 647-852-3006 for an estimate or visit rsdemolition.ca. Brian Gribben Insurance Planning, helping you solidify your financial future.
At BGIP, what we do that's unique in the marketplace is we show people how to spend and enjoy their money in their early years of retirement without the fear of running out. Also, we're able to do this without you having to change financial advisors. Please look us up at bgip.ca today, and let's book a 30-minute phone call to see how we can bring value to you and your family in your planning.
Call Brian today for all your retirement needs. We did. 905-686-5678. The Painting Pros. Want to freshen up a single room, change the appearance of your entire home, update the look of an older property, or completely transform your building? Go with the pros. Our fully insured team is skilled in surface preparation, selection of the proper finishes, as well as the application of the selected paint coatings. The perfect finish for your home or business. Call the Painting Pros, 289-830-2331, or visit thepaintingpros.ca. Gold Line Resources, discovering high-grade gold in Sweden. Gold Line Resources owns a prospective portfolio of 4 high-grade gold exploration projects located on the Gold Line mineral belt of north-central Sweden, and 1 gold exploration project in the Skellefteå belt of north-central Sweden. For more information on how you can invest in this new initiative, go to goldlineresources.com or call 1-800-858-9710. Gold Line Resources can also be found on the TSX Ventures Exchange as GLDL.